Cool. Okay. All right, I'll start. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Honest to Pod with me, Ashley McAllister.
And me, Matthew Ali.
And today we've got also...
Doug Stango.
Doug, could you say your surname again? Because I can never pronounce it, and in my head I pronounce it differently than what I think it actually is.
It's Stango. It's an odd one. If you come across another one, then basically they are either a blood relative or one of us has married them.
Ah, okay. Okay, well, that's interesting. Say it again.
Stango.
Stango.
That's it. You got it.
Like Danjo or Banjo. No,
kind of like Van Gogh.
It's basically tango with an S at the start and an E at the end.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there we go.
I do like the tango.
Unusual one.
Are you any good at the tango? Can you dance?
I've never tried, but given my
I say no.
abilities in any other dance whatsoever, I'm going to go with no.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'd say that's believable.
Have you seen him dance?
I've never, but I can just tell. I can just tell.
Oh wow.
Your powers of perception are absolutely spot on with that one.
That's so weird, actually, because your judgment's normally so poor otherwise.
Anyway, everyone, this is episode 74.
Boy, that's loads.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah. Well, as everybody knows, we have got a guest on the show today, and the reason is, in a little bit, we'll be talking about some medical-related stuff. And rather than me have my opinion and Matt have his opinion, we just thought we'd have, a professional on giving their opinion as well. Because, that makes sense, doesn't it?
I mean, I think so. I don't know, it doesn't really go with our theme. We tend to like to talk about things we know nothing about, make ridiculous statements. So, I don't know.
And give
credibility is a bit overrated.
We also give awful advice medically. Yeah. Doug, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, my name's Doug. I'm an anaesthetic and intensive care doctor at a South London teaching hospital. I don't know, am I allowed to say it? It's King's College. And I'm about to go and do a shift at work pretty much as soon as we've done this.
Yeah. So we'll record a little bit, then we'll talk about our topic, and then Dr. Doug might skedaddle because he's got lives.
I'm probably going to have to bow out of this at some point, but we're good for now.
Cool. Well, everyone, how was your weeks? Matt, how was your week?
I don't know. I feel a bit embarrassed to say it in front of Dr. Doug because I feel like our weeks might have been quite different. But my week has been quite quiet overall. So Dr. Doug, you might not know, but I've been placed on furlough as part of my job. So I work in hospitality.
Okay.
So at the moment I'm not working. So my days are kind of filled. Well, do you know what? It was quite difficult to start. I've never not worked. I've always had a job since I was really kind of 13. So this is the first significant time where I've not been working. So it was a bit hard at the start, and now I'm starting to find my groove, which is I don't know, find little I got old people things to do. I'll clean this little thing here, or I don't know, make this or whatever. But this week's been quite good. I finished. Actually, you've seen this. Has anyone seen? Have you seen the assassination of Gianni Versace?
Yes.
I've seen it advertised. I haven't actually watched it.
Oh my days! So we finished it this week, and it's ridiculously good. It's so good, but it's fucking deep. I hope it's not too much of a spoiler, but it just ends really sadly. It kind of just ends, and you're like, oh well, that was shit. But they talk about the person who assassinated Gianni Versace, Andrew Cunanan. And he was on the FBI's top one watch list or whatever. So I went online to look at the top watch list now. Has anyone seen the top 10 the FBI's top 10 most wanted list before?
I think I looked at it when there was sort of members of Al Qaeda, and they awarded them various playing cards as to how much they were wanted. and the value
really?
of the playing card represented. I'm sure this is right. Maybe it's completely wrong, but the value of the playing card represented the seniority of the Al Qaeda member.
Oh wow!
But this was some time ago. I'm probably showing my age here.
Like a top trump card.
Literally like that, only with playing cards. So there was like the ace of spades and the rest of it. And the more valuable the playing card was, the more was correlated to the value of the Al Qaeda member.
Oh wow!
You should have a look at, like, because there's like different categories, and they have like the top 10 most wanted, and then they have them into like acts against like children and minors and things like that. But it's fucking wild, like how long people have been gone missing for. They're still chasing people, and they're still on the top 10 most wanted on certain different categories since like the late 80s. And I'm like, that is madness that these people are still out there, and they've just like ran away. Because I feel like at some point, I don't know, these people will get caught. I feel like in life, like, you can only, if you're on the run, at some point you'll get caught. Now, you know, that maybe that's true, or maybe these people have passed away, I don't know. But these people are still out on the run, and they always say that they like pretty much see them. Somehow they've got to Mexico. And you should have a look. You should definitely have a look, because it's fucking madness. And people are just killing their families. This one guy had killed his child, his wife, and burnt down their house, and then went out to live in the woods, and they can't find him. And this was 2001. And it's ridiculous. They have to, like, yeah, it is mental. I was on the, like, setting up this podcast, I was running a bit late, because I thought, let me just have another look before we come on. And I was engrossed. I was absolutely engrossed. I'm going to look again after this. Probably not at night, because I feel like that'll add to my stress. But, yeah. No.
Because you don't know who's lurking outside your doors. Your doors and your living room are so, you know, anybody could be in that garden looking through those walls over into you watching.
You have no idea around here, boy. Like, literally. But so that was the extent of my week. I was just trolling the internet on FBI. Top 10 most wanted, I'd say. Yeah. And a lot of PS4, I will say that. And I bought a Switch, which is good. I wanted one for a while.
What about you, Doug?
Yeah, it's been okay. So it's just been at work, really. Obviously, I'm not getting furloughed at the moment. I've probably got very fortunate in that I've got one of the most secure jobs there is, because of everything that's going on. So just been doing some work. Did have a couple of days off, which was great. Just hung out with my other half, and yeah, there's been some nice-ish weather earlier on in the week. So we made the most of that during a government-sanctioned minimal exercise close to your home. That's kind of been it. There's been one or two Zoom conversations with friends. Yeah, I guess that's probably true for quite a lot of people, though.
Yeah, it's mad times. It is crazy. We've debated recently on the podcast, Doug, about how ethically right it is to maybe bend the rules a little bit. So, for example, I would go to a certain spot and go for a walk, and a friend would join me there, but we keep our social distancing. Like, we'll still keep two meters apart. It's not crowded. It's like a pretty. I mean, in your opinion, is that bad or is that good?
It's a very difficult one to answer. There are always going to be reasons why people have to get out. The big one at the moment is, what if you're in a domestic violence situation and for your own safety you have got to get out? They're kind of extreme examples. I don't really have the answer to it. I think that the advice at the moment is you don't go outside unless it is for limited exercise or it is essential. What constitutes essential is variable. Now, if you're saying that you're having some sort of mental health crisis, to be a little bit extreme, and seeing a friend is necessary, and you take steps to socially distance, then that may be considerably more allowable than if you went and had a party with 25 people indoors, where you were, you know, there's a breadth of what's acceptable and what's not here. I mean, and I think that the confusion clearly over what some police forces were regarding as certain activities acceptable and others were saying that they weren't, kind of underlines how difficult the interpretation is. But I think in itself, you just reduce as far as you can your contact with other people, because that's really the only way at the moment that we will get this virus under control. The virus has nowhere to hide. It can only really exist in humans. And when you've got the virus, one of two things will happen. You will clear it, or it will kill you. Both of those outcomes result in the death of the virus. So the only way the virus can perpetuate itself is by spreading into other people, and that's why there's so much emphasis on reducing social contact and sort of driving the R0 down to below zero, squashing the sombrero and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think because you said just before that you live, I don't think I live too far away from you, so I live in Shadwell.
Okay, no, not too far at all.
No one, and there's this place called Watney Market, which is like just one road from where I live, and I went to the shop yesterday to get some essential instant noodles because I was starving, and it was so busy. Like, I mean, there were groups of people standing there chatting, and I was like, "This is outrageous. I'm sure this is not okay." Like, and this was Saturday, so the market wasn't there. There were just groups of people there. Some of them were face masks, some were not, and they were just there having a good old time. And yesterday was a lovely day here, like around here. But I just thought that was a bit much. I didn't think it was okay personally, in my humble opinion.
If people really, really want to go out, then I'm sure I could probably arrange for them to come and watch some people suffocate in hospital, because that is kind of what is happening at the moment. Also, we've massively expanded our mortuary capacity, and they could go there for a wander if they really
Oh my
wanted
goodness.
So maybe then they will see that, yes, this is absolutely awful and it's doing everyone's nut in. But there is a good reason for this, and the faster we get on top of this, the faster we get out the other side.
Like we said, we brought Dr. Doug in to talk about a medical thing. Strangely enough, even though we did talk about it there for a little bit, we didn't actually want to talk about Corona and breaking the rules, which I have done. We actually, there was an article posted yesterday, and it was talking about how, you know, in an attempt to help treat people with COVID-19, they're using plasma from patients who have recovered from the virus as a way of helping. Is it would you say is antibodies? Is that what?
Yeah. So the idea is that if you get the plasma, so plasma being the blood is essentially a mixture of various things, and plasma is the sort of straw-coloured fluid which has various proteins in it that the red cells and the white cells and the platelets are sort of suspended in. So you get some blood from someone who's gotten over coronavirus, and you extract the plasma, and you can use the plasma, or more specifically the antibodies that that person has raised against the coronavirus when they've been infected themselves, and use that plasma to try and help somebody who is currently infected. It's not it's a trial. It's not, we don't know that this is going to work. It might not make a blind bit of difference, but it's a trial that's going on at the moment.
Yeah, well, in theory it sounds great, and hopefully it does produce the right sort of effect. But the point of the article was, and maybe the headline is a bit sensational, but the headline says, gay and bisexual men to be excluded from the COVID-19 plasma trial. So it is a trial, but regardless of what stage it's at, I think the headline and the article very much focused on that gay and bisexual men who have had the virus and recovered, their plasma is, they can't donate their plasma, and the article points out that it's in line with the laws or the rules around donating blood.
Correct. So
I posted on my Facebook this morning, and Dr. Doug very kindly gave his medical. Well, yeah. But I and it genuinely is a learning point for me. It's not. I have my opinion.
That's not what he said before this. He didn't say it was a learning. He was like, I don't agree.
What anyone argues with me, I'm going to disagree.
I will disagree.
It is. I'm not a doctor. I'm very wise, and in many other different fields, but I'm not a medical trained doctor. So some of the thoughts that go in my head aren't logically right. So, in my opinion, I'll just put it out there at the start. I think this is either indirectly or indirectly or directly homophobic. And what I want to do is get Doug onto the podcast, talk about it, explain his medical opinion, why it is. Dr. Doug, go for it. What do you think? I mean, my opinion is it is homophobic to say that, but then I also think the laws for blood are also homophobic.
Okay, so just before I get into the meat and potatoes of your point, and thank you very much for inviting me on to sort of share my opinion on this, and it's my opinion, it's not necessarily everyone's by any means at all. I'm sort of talking, I don't actually know the specific inclusion and exclusion criteria of this trial, so I'm talking quite generically about blood donation law as it stands in this country, or blood donation rules as it stands in this country, rather than specifically for the trial which has given rise to your question.
That's fair.
So the reason that there actually is no ban at all on gay men giving blood, and there has been no ban at all in place since 2011. There are restrictions for everyone on who can and cannot donate blood. So whether you're gay, straight, bi, black, white, male, female, whatever, if you have been abroad to a high-risk country in the last 4 months, you are not allowed to give blood. If you have seen a dentist for treatment, not just for a beer, in the last week, you're not allowed to give blood. If you've had a piercing or a tattoo for 3 months, you're not allowed to give blood. And if you are a man who has had sex with a man in specifically oral or anal sex in the last 3 months, then you're not allowed to give blood. And the reason for that is because people generally say, well, why can't you just test the blood that's being donated and make sure that the donor doesn't have HIV or hepatitis C or another blood-borne virus that we're trying to stop getting into infecting someone else, infecting a patient, is because when you are early on in your infection with HIV, you can be very, very heavily infected and you can still have a negative test. And that's because when we test for HIV, we don't test for the virus itself. We test for the antibodies that your immune system has raised against the virus. That can take up to 3 months. And that's why there is a time limit on when on men who have had sex with men, that they need to have abstained for 3 months before they can donate blood. It's purely about patient safety. And there's history to this. There's probably one of the biggest healthcare scandals, certainly in the last century. So there's a condition which a lot of people will have heard about, but just in case people haven't, I'll go through it a tiny bit, if that's okay, called haemophilia. And basically it's a bleeding disorder because it only affects men, and they have a genetic situation whereby they don't produce one of the proteins which is involved in blood clotting. And the way we used to treat this was we used to collect this particular protein from donated blood, and then we'd give it to haemophiliacs and it would transiently stop the problem. Now, in the sort of 70s and 80s, they didn't restrict the donor pool. We didn't put the safeguards in that we now have, and we infected thousands, literally thousands of people with HIV. By the time we realised what had happened, a lot of them had already infected their partners. So this is a scandal of epic proportion, and it was absolutely and completely avoidable. When we finally realised what we'd done as doctors, as scientists, we then put in the lifetime ban on anyone who has ever had sex with them, any man who's ever had sex with a man, from donating blood. That was lifted in 2011, but because we still can't tell if someone has HIV when they're very early on in their infection, we have this restriction saying that if you're a man who's had sex with a man in the last 3 months, you have to wait until you're out of that window, as it were. so that we can tell if you've got HIV. It's a blunt tool, and I accept it's a blunt tool, and I accept, certainly from the responses that some of the people that I got from when I essentially said what I've just said now on your Facebook post, that people take offence at it. It's effective. It has made blood donation safe, and this disaster of infecting lots and lots of people with HIV and hepatitis C has been, we haven't had a recurrence of that.
No, and I think it is good, and I think when it comes down to the argument about like LGBT equality versus the health and safety of everyone, not just LGBT, like, because people who get blood transfers are anyone, regardless of your sexuality. So I totally understand that. To me, I guess where it still comes across as a very indirectly homophobic sort of response is that you're saying it's men who have sex with men. Obviously, men who have sex with men are either going to be gay, bisexual, or somewhere on that LGBT spectrum. So it is targeted towards that.
Well,
but if you look at sorry, just bear with me a second.
Sure.
If you look at the statistics of 2018 statistics, out of the 4,453 men who were diagnosed with HIV, or I'm not sure if it was men actually, 4,453 people diagnosed with HIV, 51% were gay or bisexual. So that means 49% identified as straight. So to me, the difference, or so in the modern world that we live in, I can understand historically that gay men would have had a higher risk of spreading HIV through these means, but in 2018 in the modern world, it doesn't seem like the percentage difference of gay or bisexual men who are catching HIV versus straight people are catching HIV, that it sort of warrants this sort of, I don't know,
I see
unfair...
where you're coming from, but what you're doing is you're confusing two different epidemiological attributes here: incidence and prevalence. So I have no issue at all. I don't know the statistic, but I have absolutely no issue with you saying that there are probably approximately as many in the UK new infections in gay men as in straight people or straight men. The issue is that once you become infected with HIV, you're not just... So incidence is the number of new infections per unit time. So incidence would be there were X number of infections over the last year. Prevalence would be the amount of the population who've got it. So they may have got it 10 years ago, they may have got it a month ago, they may have got it... It's this sort of the pool of infection. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly, the burden of disease in the UK with regards to HIV, is in gay men. And that's because of the historical factors, because historically in this country, it's a totally different story in like sub-Saharan Africa, where it's not predominantly spread and never has been predominantly been spread by gay sex between men. It's much more of a heterosexual condition. But in this country, it has historically been spread by gay men, and as a result of that, the burden of disease is in gay men, and that's why they have these restrictions in place. The dynamics may well have changed latterly. In fact, they almost certainly had. In fact, what I last heard was that more heterosexual people acquired it than gay people. But because of the years gone by where the amount of disease being spread was overwhelmingly amongst gay men, the pool of infection, the prevalence is much higher in gay men, and that's why they put these sort of restrictions. It's not an issue about gay men donating their blood. It's only those gay men who we wouldn't be able to pick up that they have HIV. I mean, you're absolutely right. If a straight person contracts HIV by whatever means, then they could potentially slip through the net. But when you look at the numbers and the statistics, it's far more likely that that will happen with a gay man than it would with a straight person. But we get around that by saying you just need to wait for 3 months. There is a task force. I had a quick look at the NHS Blood and Transplant website, which is trying to basically get rid of this kind of catch-all, this effective but very blunt tool saying any man who's had sex with a man in the last 3 months can't donate blood, about trying to individualise it a bit. Because there is a very reasonable argument amongst gay men, one that I do sympathise with. You know, somebody who's gone off on a lad's holiday to Thailand and has had multiple unprotected sexual exposures with commercial sex workers, prostitutes. And then you've got a gay guy who is sexually active but within a monogamous relationship, then I know whose blood I'd rather have if it were me. And there are sort of efforts to try and individualise it. But as it stands, we're not there yet. And the way that we protect people is by saying gay men are absolutely welcome to donate blood. I think the 2011 change in the law was far too late. It could have happened years earlier. But they have to say, or they have to have not had sex with another man for the last 3 months, just so that if they have contracted the infection, that we can recognise that and prevent their blood from entering the donor system and causing infections in other people.
Yeah, 100%. The 2011 ban was the change from the lifetime ban to the 1 year
20
ban.
exactly, yeah. That was when they started. I think they did it initially. They said for a year that you had to have been abstinent from sex for a year.
Yeah.
And then they changed that latterly. I don't know when they changed it, but that's now been cut down to 3 months.
Yeah, 2017 they changed that. Actually, the law, 2017 they changed it in England and Wales, and actually only last week it was passed in Northern Ireland. So as of 2020 in Northern Ireland, you can now wait 3 months, even though it doesn't become active until June, but it's now 3 months, like the rest of the UK. So,
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions.
Go.
If that's okay. One thing is, why dentists after a week?
I don't know actually for the dentist. I was thinking this myself. I can understand why if you've had a tattoo or a piercing, it's the same reason. I'm not too sure what it is about the dentist. I don't work in. I'm not a hematologist. I'm not an immunologist. I don't quite know what their reasoning for that. But I do know that if you've had dental treatment within the last week, you are excluded from giving blood until that week has gone up.
Okay.
That's mad.
Yeah, I'm interested.
And also, if you've been on holiday to quite a long list of countries, then you are precluded from giving blood until 4 months after your return. And again, it's because of the viruses you could have picked up while you were abroad.
Is it such a big difference? And you may be able to answer. I know that medicine is really wide, but is there such a stark difference in testing the blood itself? Because you said you test like the antibodies or the production of that within the plasma, but what is like the difference in actually just testing the blood? Why is that possible?
Well, you can test the blood for the virus, but then you can. Some people who have HIV, they're sufficiently well treated that they're undetectable. So we know they're infected with HIV, but we can't actually detect the virus itself. So when we're looking at viral load, we can't detect the viral load at all. So the most sensitive way of picking up somebody who's got HIV is to look for the antibodies. But the problem with that, the sort of failing of that test, is that it takes you 3 months to start, or up to 3 months. Some people will raise antibodies much quicker than that. But from getting infected to showing a positive test. And that's why if you go for a sexual health checkup, they will, when they take your sexual history over the last few months, they will generally warn you that any sort of HIV infection you've picked up in the last 3 months will not show on that test. And if you are concerned about a particular encounter which has taken place within the last 3 months, that you need to go back. And that's simply because you may have the infection, but you don't have the evidence of the infection in the form of antibodies, which is what we're actually looking for when we test.
Okay, that makes more sense. I wasn't too sure if it was like for another reason that you weren't just testing the blood, but it's actually the best way to see it is through the antibodies, because sometimes whether you've got the infection or not, you cannot see it in the blood. Is that correct?
Some people can have very low viral loads, especially if they're on treatment, and you can't really pick it up. So we look for the antibodies to the virus rather than the virus itself. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to ask actually is, how does this affect transgender people? Because if someone self-identifies as, say, like a male to female transsexual, but giving blood says that if you have
sex with a man as a man. Are there any grey areas when it comes to that, or in this country do you identify?
Good
Okay, so I
question.
am female.
I've got
That is a
no
good
idea.
question. Yeah.
That's a really good question, and I actually don't know. So I'm guessing here. I'm guessing that if you have had the part, there are a variety of reasons why gay men have a higher risk of infection, and it relates to the sort of the biology, or part of it relates. There's social reasons as well, but part of it relates to the biology of sex. The lining of the rectum is different to that of the vagina. It's not as robust. It's not as tough, as it were, and it's thought that that may well be a portal of infection, which is more susceptible than sort of vaginal sex. Receptive anal sex is probably the most high risk. There's other factors which go into it as well. So how does this fit in with trans people? The answer is I don't really know. And because there are so many variables with the trans community, pre-operative, post-operative, which direction, for want of a better expression, that they are transitioning in, that has to be considered. I don't know, and I don't know. It must, with a growing trans community, I'm guessing it must come down to the fact that if you, as a man, your biological birth gender, have had sex with a man, then that's you, with regards to this. But I'm afraid I don't have a very good answer for what is a very good question.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I thought it was a bit out there, to be fair, but it just never seems to address it. Like, I know the article that Ashley had put, and as a like an openly gay man, I tend to like gravitate towards articles that would be like, gay men can't do this and we can't do that. But actually, I think there's a bit more to it, especially because we don't really have a term for people that were born, well, assigned, I guess, a sex, but gender's a bit different, or the other way around. So I forget. But I guess when you're born, if you were born with a certain set of chromosomes, then they will stay that way, regardless of whether you transition. Because then, if you have sex, if you're not having anal sex, for example, because you are post-operative, then it might be slightly different. But then, I don't know what the makeup of.
I don't know what the risk. Yeah. What it will come down to is the risk of HIV in a trans person, and I don't know what that is.
But it did mention, actually, because it did mention as well. I think what you'd written, but someone else had posted on Ashley's post, had written that it doesn't just say gay and bisexual men. It says sex workers fall under that same category, and I think you mentioned people that use intravenous drugs, for example. So it doesn't explicitly just say gay and bisexual men.
No, it doesn't actually say gay men at all, because a lot of people who have sex with men who have sex with men, do not identify as gay. And that's why they specifically say, if you're a man who's had sex with a man in the last 3 months, you cannot give blood. And that's kind of the reason for it, because the risk of HIV getting into and it's also into the community by that route. And it's also, I do wonder the damage that this could do to the sort of the gay rights movement. You can kind of, if it so happened that we just said, right, we're relaxing all these restrictions, men who have sex with men, gay men, they want to give blood, that's fine, we're going to let them, and have no restriction at all on it. And then they do a study in a few years' time which shows that there have been cases of HIV transmission because gay men refused or were not prepared to abide by these guidelines, or these guidelines were changed as a result of pressure from gay rights activists. You can kind of see the Daily Mail headline now, what it's going to be, and how damaging that could be to the gay community or the gay rights movement. So
yeah, I mean,
there's that aspect to it as well.
I totally agree, but then I would say that it's not a case of, with regards to equality, I would never say that the equality should go in favor of the gay rights activists in this case, when it's the public health is at risk. I would say, to make it more equal, you should be taking in more individual, like you said earlier on, and I think that to me is the sticking point in this. Is if I was in if I was, in a relationship, which I know I'm not, but if I was in a relationship with my with my partner,
then you
we
definitely
had
not have sex for 3 months. I'll tell you that now. You'd be
yeah,
abstinent.
I could give as much blood as I wanted, but
Yeah.
let's just say that if, as we're talking hypothetically, if we hypothetically had a very active sex life, then
We're just telling lies now.
I still couldn't give blood versus any other person in the world who had, let's just use a straight guy, for example, who had multiple sex partners in 1 week. But to me, it's not a case about gay rights. We should be able to give blood no matter what. It's sort of like, well, actually, do you consider that and to me, it wasn't, the statistic isn't. I know you're saying about how historically the amount of people who have HIV. The statistic I brought up was for the basis of people who don't identify as gay and bisexual are still catching diseases at roughly the same rate, or definitely HIV at roughly the same rate as other people. But this doesn't seem to be taken into fact that.
But the places where they're generally catching them, in some of the situations where they're catching them, intravenous drug use, going on, to high risk countries using commercial sex workers, that is caught because that's in the questionnaire as well. So it's a lot of those people who are going into your statistic about heterosexual transmission of HIV, they would still be caught up in this. The restriction which applies to gay men, the next question would apply to them, and it would filter them out as well.
Does this all work on a trust basis? When you give blood, really, you're just answering the questions. Is that correct? I've never given blood before.
Yeah, you basically you go through a questionnaire. There are a variety of exclusions, and if you're eligible, then you can go to a donation centre and you just donate.
Okay.
And then you can't.
So if you lied, you could donate.
Period. Sorry.
So if someone had gave misinformation, for whatever reason, I'm not saying, I don't know why people would do or wouldn't, but there's no evidence-based thing. It's really just a questionnaire, so you have to self.
Yeah, it's a questionnaire, and people could lie on it. If they traced back, and if someone was found to have, because reckless transmission of HIV in this country is a criminal offence, and certainly deliberate transmission of HIV is a criminal offence. I don't know if they would try, because they do keep a very clear record of exactly whose blood has gone into which patient, partially because of all of this. So they could identify if there had been an accident or something had happened, because if it happens, they need to get that donor out of the donor network. Because when you start giving blood, they call you back, because if you give blood, we want more of it because we'll use it. And if we have a problem with one, then we need to get them out of it. So blood traceability is very, very important, and it's very, very effective. So we know exactly whose blood has gone into which patients, and we know the minute that we started the transfusion and the minute that it ended, because it's all documented and it's all traceable.
Cool.
Do you... Oh, actually, no, yeah, we're getting...
Gents, on that note, no,
I was about to say, Doug,
I'm gonna have to,
yes. No. Thank you Doug, thank you very, very much for being on.
So much.
I know there's so many more questions we probably asked.
Tons.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Doug.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Oh, cool. Like, Doug, well, you have a great day. Go save lives. Go be a hero.
I'll see what I can
do. All right. Thanks.
All right. Cheers, guys. Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Oh, Matt, there we go. We had another guest on the podcast. I found that really interesting.
I was really bored.
You?
Yeah.
Honestly, if it's not RuPaul, you're not into it.
Listen, you need to watch the season. It is very good.
I have watched the season.
Oh shit, you have.
You forget every week. And I know about who was not eliminated this week.
Why do I keep forgetting this? I just feel like you're just really against RuPaul. I don't know.
Well, anyway, such an interesting talk, and obviously Doug who listens, thank you, Doug, for being on. Matt, what do you think?
I think his voice is so sexy. Like,
you need to control yourself.
Did you when he spoke the first thing? I was like, oh my god, it's so deep and so clear. I was like, wow, Oh my days. Apart from that, I thought I had an idea in my head before we spoke just now, obviously, about giving blood, and I don't fully understand obviously all the rules about it and stuff. I just know that it's something that I'm not able to do. I haven't been able to do since my success of March 2019 onwards, because there's been no bouts of abstinence. But after hearing what you had to say and just give a bit more understanding about the rules and regulations that are in place and why they test it, to me it makes sense. It makes sense why there are some of these restrictions in place, and I definitely understand it a lot better, to the point where I feel like unless there's a better way to allow more people to give blood, it makes sense to me that there are some of these provisions in place.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think coming at it from a non-medical point of view, and as just a gay guy, I still feel a bit outraged by the sort of screening process. Doug did a great explanation of the importance of the screening process, and I don't disagree that should be in order, because the health of other people should be priority, and I totally agree that. I think there should be, like, to me, the imbalance of a monogamous partner versus somebody who has sex with loads of people. I think there should just be a better screening process in place that makes it a bit more equal.
But the thing with like monogamy, right, for example, is that if you and I were in a monogamous relationship, or we claim to be, no one actually knows whether someone was like committing infidelity, right?
Yeah.
So you're not only speaking for yourself, you're speaking on somebody else's behalf as well at this point. And I think that, I don't know whether that falls into it, but I think it's, you don't know. You can only speak for yourself, right?
Yeah, but then you don't, like, you get that's just not a gay person trait. It's straight people have the same things as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
and I don't know if it works in like a straight relationship where their partner had travelled and then come back. Do you know what I mean? And then had sex with you. So say if you were in a straight relationship and your partner had gone to Thailand and got a tattoo and had sex with sex workers and then came back and then had sex with you, it is one person removed, but I don't know if some of those rules still apply.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's, to me, it's these questions. This screening process is so flawed that, for example, the scenario you just gave, it's just mad. It's like there's so many, loopholes, that it just seems to be that, in my opinion, gay and bisexual men are taking the blunt of what is a very improper and incorrect system of deciphering who should be able to give blood.
That's the only bit I probably wouldn't necessarily agree with. That's the only thing, and I think that there's a bit. The only reason why I say that is I think I think that kind of opinion, and this is me speaking heavily generalizing, but it makes me think of like people that are protesting, like staying in and stuff. I think when you say taking the brunt, I think that comes from a place of privilege. That's my only thing. I think that to be like somewhat victimized in that way, it's not, because I would be less likely to say that we're getting the brunt of it, because that's not true, and it is 3 months. It's not forever like it was. If it was forever, that's slightly different. But I understand those rules don't apply to heterosexual people or people that identify in that way. But I wouldn't say we're taking the brunt of it, to be fair. Like, it's not affecting my life.
But then you don't give blood, and you never have. So I know you said it's your opinion, but I guess to me the frustration from my part is it's this rule, which, and I think the ban on giving blood is any male who's had anal sex or oral sex with another male. It just spreads misconceptions about. It spreads misinformation. Fuels misinformation. I can't even speak. fuels misinformation and misconceptions about gay men and HIV. It spreads the misconception that all gay men are promiscuous. Not all gay men are, and I think that's the problem. That if you're because we have gay men come with a certain weight on their shoulders where it is presumed that if you're a gay man, I'm not saying this is right, but if you're a gay man, it's like, well, you must be having loads of sex every week, or do you know what I mean? It you're a clubber, you're a night partier, and every other weekend. And it's not true for everyone. And I think what it does, it fuels that if you are a gay man, that you're going to have lots more sex than anyone else, so more likely to catch and spread diseases. And I think the sort of rules in place for giving blood, and it just sort of spreads that misconception, and also it then spreads misinformation, because I do think, and I think I've made a note of it here, and I don't have the actual guidelines in front of me, but I must have made a note of it for some reason. But the guidelines for giving blood must also restrict people from oral sex. But oral sex, there's a very low chance of catching HIV from oral sex. So it spreads the misinformation about HIV to people who might not know, and then they just get on this bandwagon as like, they don't know the rules, so they don't know what to say. It just, to me, it is, and I know you disagree, but I thought about it, maybe did I choose the wrong wording? But gay men are taking a hit for something that isn't just down to gay men anymore. Like, as the statistic shows, people
Do you think it? Sorry, go on.
No, is that people who are not gay are also having sex and spreading diseases. That you don't have to be gay to get HIV. It's not what they used to call the gay cancer. It's not just a gay disease. And I totally got what Dr. Zig was saying is, historically it is a lot more gay, so the percentage of people with HIV, not just new treatment, but overall, is higher, which is fair. But also, straight people out there having sex, and straight people out there having spreading diseases, but there's no ban on them for 3 months. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a ban on us. I'm saying the ban maybe should be for 3 months for everyone, or better screening processes in place to say, well, actually, asking me as a gay man if you had sex with your partner. Yes, I have. Have you had sex with other partners? I said that. No, I haven't. As if anyone else coming to whether you're straight, you would be answering that question without knowing if your other partner has been faithful or not, regardless if you're gay or straight. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter.
I just think if there's nothing else in place at the moment, and as Dr. Duggan said, that this change or these rules or guidelines in place had shown positive results, unless there is a way of doing it, like you're saying, without it, then, and I'm not saying that anyone's petitioning for it to be removed necessarily, but I think that the alternative would be an alternative, not like, okay, well, let's just take away this, what Dr. Duggan called, a blunt tool, which is fair to say. It makes me understand it a bit better. I don't know whether we should or shouldn't look at, because what you're talking about and what we're talking about is just the gay men, but there are other guidelines. I don't know if they need to be looked at differently or the same as well. If you put them all together, because it did talk about the dentist, tattoos and piercings, and all that sort of stuff, and holidays, for example. I don't know if you can or should just highlight one area out of all of the guidelines.
Well, I think the reason why this one area stands out for me is, if you are traveling to your country, it's your choice to travel to the country. If you're traveling to, or you're getting a tattoo, you choose to get that tattoo. If you're using drugs, you choose to use those drugs. Being gay is not a choice, and it's not a lifestyle we opt in to do. Being gay is who we are, and it's that makes this one sort of field stand out from the rest. Because it's also the field that, drug users can be gay or straight or whatever way they want to identify on the spectrum. People who get tattoos, again, can be gay, straight, or whatever part of the spectrum they want to be. People who go to these foreign countries can be gay, straight. I totally get that, these people also get diseases and spread them on for methods outside of sexual practices. But gay and bisexual men for their sexual practices are being targeted. Target is not the right word, but being highlighted as problematic for giving blood for to me what is a prehistoric reason. Anyway, that's my opinion. I need some water because I have just talked nonstop for 5 minutes and I'm like gasping. Do you have anything else you want? I'm not going to say anything else. So do you have anything else you want to say on it?
I do not. I don't.
Okay.
But I'd be interested if anyone has any ideas or understanding alongside what Doug said about the rules around transgender people. I don't know if anyone specializes.
That was I have to say, that was a very good question, and it's not something I even considered in my head, and I think it is a very good question to ask.
I'm a genius. You
have your moments.
Yeah, it's not even something you considered. The dentist one got me. I'm so interested by this dentist rule. I'm like, a dentist for a week, and I'm like, because maybe you lose blood a lot of the dentist, and maybe then you have less blood to give. That's what I was thinking, but yeah. Anyways, no, nothing else to say.
Cool. Well, we had another exciting thing happen this week, didn't we, Matt?
We did. I actually had a shower before 12 o'clock. And I was really excited about that because it's only about between 3 and 5 p.m. But there was one before midday, so that was really good.
I also, again, out of craziness, I did an exercise today.
You did half an exercise, so you posted on your Instagram stories making out like you did the whole thing. And when you told me that, and then I saw the story, I was like, "How dare you? And no amendments were made, okay?" And
what I posted was the full workout. I did not complete the full workout. It was.
You weren't even close to. Oh my god, it's so bad, so bad.
Anyway, it was still good though. Nice to sweat. Such lovely weather today on Sunday. But that actually wasn't what I was talking about. What I was talking about, Matt.
I know.
Oh, fair. We had. I was like, what the fuck? Who cares if you shower before 12? We had a lovely podcast review. And it comes from Young Gun 1993, the year I was born. And it says, best friends to be. 5 stars. I have started... I thought you read it because you're better.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah.
No. So he said, best friends to be, and gave us 5 stars. And he said, I've started divulging in this very late in the day, but I've gone all in and started from numero uno, and I believe number 72 has just been released. I am now fully invested in these boys' lives, now on episode 10 within a week, and it's been an emotional roller coaster. Fits of laughter to some wet eyes. They don't know it yet, but they are my new best friends. Great company on my commute to and from work. I am hooked. They are thirsty bitches, and I bloody love it.
Oh,
yeah.
He did say that he was drunk when he wrote that, but I do think it genuinely does sum up the podcast pretty well.
Yeah, I mentioned him today for some reason, and he said that he was drunk, and then he said, "But the alcohol brings out the truth." Because I was like, I can see why you told all these lies, and he was like, "No." So,
thirsty bitches. Who is thirsty between us? I'm thirsty now because I've just talked a lot, but I don't think I'm a thirsty bitch.
I think you go through phases, and you're in your daddy phase at the moment. So one reason why you should look at the FBI top 10 is because there are some daddies. Honestly,
I did look. And there was one who caught my eye, and I was like, "Oh, ding dong!"
I think I know who it is. It's the one who killed his wife and his child and burnt the house down. And I was like, he's very. He's like, they said he's in very fit shape as well. He's an outdoorsman.
Which one is it?
I don't know what his name is.
Fisher is physically fit and an avid outdoorsman, hunter and fisher.
Yes, Yes, and then
That was him.
It was him. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read his crime. Sort of for allegedly killing his wife and 2 young children. Oh, and then blowing them up in the house. Oh dear.
Listen, it is
Nobody's
fucked.
Nobody's perfect, I guess, right? You can
No,
take the flaws.
nobody's perfect. But you know what? This bitch can give blood. Am I right?
Why, you're right. Yeah, exactly. But do you know what? When you're looking at his profile pic, if you go to, he's called Robert William Fisher, and he's on here. He's unlawful,
You did not need to say his name, boy, because you know he can hear us, and he's coming. He's coming.
Okay. Well, good. He needs to be caught. But they did some. If you look at his pictures, like the second picture in, looks like it was taken tops off, XXL, black and white. You can see this on this guy's scruff profile, 100%. And then they did some, what is it, like computer generated pictures of what he would look like now, and they've given him a bit of like a grey stubble, and I'm feeling it. I really am. I think it's the third from last, where he's got like a bit of grey stubble. He's got the shave, a bit of salt and pepper going on in the hair. I'm feeling it. I am. I'm gonna print this off. I mean, it looks like he is missing a tooth, but I don't mind. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm feeling it.
And they give you their height and their weight, and things like that, and the year
he's
they were born.
6 foot.
So,
Yeah. He's a surgical catheter technician. Oh, he's a fireman. I'm feeling this.
It's so good.
1961. What age would he be?
57.
Well, you know what?
58.
Ding dong.
You're in that daddy phase. Hey, daddy. You can burn my house down any day.
Ooh, my loins are burning now.
Oh, shit. It's disgusting. Listen, it's FBI. Top 10 most wanted. Yeah.
Outrageous.
So you can also, we never really mentioned this, I guess. I don't know if we need to say it because people listen to our podcast. But you can always catch us on Instagram. And on Mondays now, at honest_2_pod, we're going to be posting our 3 favorite memes of the week. So if you have any that you want to share with us that you think will make us laugh, then you can. But you can also tell us which one is your favorite, because we don't pick them in order. We just say which is your favorite. So that'd be something you can do as well. I share us and your lovely feedbacks and stories and all that jazz.
100%. I mean, I love a good meme.
God, they kill me sometimes. Did you see that video? I know it's not a meme, but did you see that video that I posted with that bird?
The verb.
The bird. You didn't. You must have seen it now.
What did you post? Oh, yes. Him on the water, and he's doing his little dance.
It kills me. Absolutely killed me. But then, do you know what happened? Someone had posted, because I put it onto my Facebook as well, and this guy, who I know, had been like, that bird has got like, it's called Piscine beak and feather disease, and he was like, the bird's not going to last very long. So I looked up, and that bird is fucking dying, and I was like, oh my god, this poor bird.
Were you emotional?
I've been so emotional this week, So I was watching Too Hot to Handle, which is obviously, yeah. Do you know what? Right, this is ridiculous. So I love me some trash TV. This one is a stretch because it's literally like I said it before. I think a mixture between The Apprentice and Love Island. Like the people are trash, absolute trash. But I started getting emotional. Like they do these workshops, and they had to like write on these pieces of paper, like basically their deepest, darkest fears and insecurities and feelings. And I was getting all welled up because they were getting all emotional as well. And I was like, ooh. Ben was sitting there being like, God, this is rubbish. And I'm like, at work when they make you go and do those like self-help things and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm always all in. Like I'm always all in those things. I love those like life coach things. I really do. Unless I don't like the person. If I don't like the person, I won't enjoy it. But if I like the person that's running it, then I'm all in. And I would have done that and cried 4 rivers.
All I'm saying is, if Ben is there and he's saying it's trash, then that says something.
You know his TV taste is worse than mine, right?
Well, exactly, and he thinks it's trash, but you're there, like, oh my god, this is so emotional.
He loves the show. He doesn't like the self-help bit. He was very cynical about that.
Well, I mean, that's not unlike him. Yeah. Anyone who wants to leave us a little review can. It's very simple to do. And do you know what? I figured out this week that I get. You have access as well, Matt, but I know you wouldn't look. The statistics very much say that a lot more of our listeners listen on Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you're already halfway there to leaving a review. I don't, why not just go that extra little minute longer and say like, hey, 5 stars? Of course, ding dong. Then write a little thing like, hey, this is this and that is that, and I like this and I didn't like that. We don't mind. We just want to hear about it. Isn't that right?
I do. I really do. I'll even take 4 stars if I'm honest, but anything below that I will not accept.
No, I'm sorry. I'll take 5. I have higher standards. I know Matt listens to trash TV, and he might accept 4, but no, I only watch the best. And I
can't remember what show I watched, but the rating. Oh, it was called. It's called. Oh my god, what's it called? Not Next in Fashion. There's a new one on Amazon Prime, and it's about like designers, and I finished it all, like smashed it, and it had a rating of like 6.1, 4.9, something like that, and I was like sold. Buy me 4 episode series of this. Just give it to me now. I want it all.
Do you know what I started watching this week?
What?
The X-Files. Do you know what the X-Files are?
Of course I do. It had David Duchovny and what's her name, boy? Who's so funny. Yeah, Gillian Anderson. Oh my god, she's so
Anderson,
funny.
Yeah. Gillian Anderson was voted, and I don't know if this is right or not anymore, but I think she was the very, very first FHM Sexiest Women of the World. In the very first time. Do you remember FHM used to be like the top 200 sexiest women in the world?
Yeah.
It used to be a massive issue. She was the first ever number 1 spot. I think that's right.
I used to watch X-Files when I was younger, but it used to make me really scared, so I couldn't watch it for very long. I found it really, really hard to watch.
Let me tell you, as a 34-year-old man, I am still breaking it when I watch it.
It's the music. It's the music.
It's all 90s, so it's X-Files 90s. I was chatting to my friend Sean the other day, and I was chatting about it. He's like, "Oh, is that like? I mean, he's 10 years younger than me, so he would have been born 93, 94, 9, 10 years younger than me. So he was born like the year this came out. So he probably would never have been an X-Files kid, and that's why I was asking, because I know you're so youthful, and I didn't know if you watched it or not. But he was just like, isn't it UFO? And I'm like, yeah, it is. I mean, it is so 90s, and
You're watching
so
it together?
Great. No. Mom and I are watching it. And I honestly, some of the stories just give me like the heebie-jeebies. I get them, and I'm like, oh, and I get anything to do with aliens. I do actually think I have a fear of aliens, and I think anything, and I get so nervous because I think I mean. I don't know, but I don't know about you, but I definitely believe that there is life out there. And then I don't know if you noticed, but I posted this week about the UFO footage released by the Pentagon, and it made me shiver. Like I get it, I don't get it. There was an episode which made me think about you, Matt. There's an episode in the X-Files which is made me think about you, and it's called Deep Throat.
Okay. If you think that reminded me, we've clearly never had sex, bitch, because I'm like, you are joking, but
no. Oh, I see what. Oh, no, you're so dirty-minded. Deep Throat is the name of a character. He's a very mysterious character in it. Very like lurky around the corners, and it just made me think of you.
Okay, when do I ever lurk?
Bitch.
No.
The other thing. What else? I had something else. The other thing I've been obsessed with this week is just so you know, we didn't actually get to talk about my week because we had to jump into like. This is why I'm regurgitating.
Have a lovely week. Bye. This is why I'm regurgitating. I was like, what's going on? I'm like, oh god, I thought we were done. I'm gonna grab my tea. And they're going, Karen, you tell us, Moon. Tell us about your week.
The other thing I was what started getting into this week is there's an island, and I think it's called the Sentinel Island or North Sentinel Island, which is in the Bay of
Bay of
Mumbai or somewhere
Biscay.
near. Where?
Bay of Biscay.
Are you joking? I don't know. Are you trying to make a
No,
joke?
no, I'm not trying to make a joke at all. Why would you think that? I'm looking at the
So you
internet
know what
now. Bay of Biscay. Yeah, it's a place in the South Atlantic Ocean. Wait, what's the place called?
Sentinel Island.
No, it's not there. Anyways,
It's all about North Sentinel Island, and it's the Bay of Bengal, off India, and it is the tribe where they have not been affected. Like they've had no visitors in over 200 years. This is a tribe of humans that live in this island, and they kill anyone who comes to the island.
okay.
So
No wonder no one's gone there.
sorry, what?
I said no wonder why no one's gone there.
Well, now apparently it's illegal to go there. This Christian kid thought he would go there, and he wrote in his little journal and stuff, say, if I go and they kill me, don't blame them. I just think that it's my duty to spread the word of God onto them. This bitch lands up in a canoe and gets killed, and I'm like, well, and they won't, like the government over the island is an Indian government, and they've made it illegal to be within like 5 kilometers or 5 miles of it, of this island, because they're like, let these people be. They don't want us there. Just let them be. And I get that. I find it so interesting that this tribe there, and they do, like, for example, after, like, for the what do you call it? The tsunami of Boxing Day tsunami from 2002, was it, or whenever that tsunami hit. They flew over the island to make sure that there was people there and they were still alive, but because this island is so cut off, the numbers of people there are reducing because there's nobody to populate the island anymore. But then last night I was watching, I think it was Papua New Guinea. Last night I was watching this 5-part YouTube thing, and it talked about how this is another tribe that in New Guinea that are cut off from the world, and they had never seen white people before. And there's a video recording of it, and it's these people who are seeing these white people for the first time, and they start off the other side of the river, and then they cross over to this side of the river, and like they're touching, like they get too nervous to touch the white person's hand, and I'm just like, this is mad. Like, this is crazy that this is the world we live in. I mean, this was like in the 80s, but still, I was like, oh my god.
But that's like Ireland, but the opposite, isn't it?
Exactly. We're trying to cross the border, and I'll see somebody, and we're like, oh my god, can I touch? Are they real? But yeah, I've been fascinated by that as well. This week has just been
riveting, some might say.
Riveting. Yeah, I can't find the word. It's been that good.
But I'm glad you had a good week of TV then.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to start watching is, I love me some Ant Middleton. Do you know who Ant Middleton is?
Who?
Ant Middleton?
No.
Right. Are you on your laptop?
Yep.
Or go on your phone and search Ant Middleton. I love me some Ant Middleton, and I think you'll see why when you see him.
Oof! He's a soldier.
Do you know what? He's SAS, but SAS.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
Oh wow. Yeah, I see.
I mean, I'm just drawn to him. But
he seems like a very intelligent.
He does have a couple of books out. I have to say, his book, I've read his first book, and it is really, really good. I've not read the second one, but I will read it. And they are very good books. But he's a show called SAS Who Dare Wins or something like that. And there's a celebrity
I would absolutely
edition.
never watch anything like that in my life ever.
Why?
Absolutely not.
You're an idiot.
No.
So SAS Who Dares Wins is out now, and people like Joey Essex is on it. It's a celebrity edition.
Hold on. You said you don't watch reality TV shows, and you think all of these things are terrible, and now you want to watch a show with Joey Essex.
I'm watching a show with Ant Middleton and the SAS because I actually genuinely think that I was cut out to be in the SAS, and so I'll be watching it for tips.
That's good, yeah, because you did your exercises, remember? And then you had to give up halfway through because you couldn't breathe. Do you remember that time? Do you
And
remember?
I vaguely remember that time.
I mean, you were probably delusional at the
But
time, so much air not getting to your heads because of the breathing.
you're such a witch. Here I am trying to be positive, trying to be positive.
You're just mad
I'm gonna.
contradictory, boy. You're mad contradictory. You watch some
I
trash reality TV show and you have the audacity to judge me and my tastes.
I don't have trash TV choices. I don't. I very rarely watch reality TV, and I will watch this because it's been recommended. Like I said to you, I will watch this season, even though you forget. I will watch this season's RuPaul because you've asked me to.
I didn't ask you
I'm
to.
watch. You excuse me. It'll be on this podcast so many times where you've said, "Bear girl, you need to watch RuPaul. This season is so good," and I'm like, "Girl, I am watching this season's podcast because you told me to watch it."
It's a very good
So
season.
there you go. It is. I have my favorite. Who's your favorite?
Well, whenever I watch my trash reality TV shows, I think I've said it before as well. I have a rule. So after the first episode, you must pick one person who you think will win, and I pretty much always exclusively never get it right, or even close. To be fair, but it helps me then focus. It's like like sports betting or something. Like at least you've got someone to back, so it makes it that a little bit more interesting. And my pick
Yeah.
is Jackie Cox. So I mean, I love Heidi. She's funny as hell, but she's going to go next week for sure.
No,
So Jackie
Heidi's my
Cox.
favorite.
Well, I mean, you say that as if like that is most people that watch the show. Like you can just chill. Heidi is fucking hilarious, and I feel bad now. After the first episode, I was like, "This bitch is going first. She's a terrible drag queen." Ever since that moment on, she's just so funny, so
Who?
funny. Her drag, Heidi, but her in that
Yeah.
competition of the makeover was really bad. But she posted on her Instagram being like, "Oh, this is the outfit I wanted us to wear, but I guess for whatever reason, they weren't able to use." The stuff that she brought, and I think she brought stuff that was better, but she had to make do with what she had because they weren't able to wear it. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but Heidi's good. Yeah, so but Jackie Cox is my pick to win, and she will go either next week or the week after. So I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was for anyone who's not watching. You might not cover your ears now for the next 30 seconds, but that was a tough dance off because Jackie Cox to me is probably my second. And I just think she's brilliant. And I was like, oh god, I don't want any of them. So that's whenever Rue was like, "Girl, Shantae's you stays." I was like, oh god, I loved it.
Well, because Jackie Cox did lose that lip sync. To be fair.
She did lose that lip sync.
Yeah.
Um,
She
who
wasn't bad.
was I? Crystal Method, is that the one that dressed like
Rubbed. The bitch was
Robbed.
rubbed. Look, Jada is an excellent drag queen. I think she's one of the best drag queens that have been on RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, from like top to bottom. She reminds me of this one called Trinity the Tuck, where she's just an absolute professional. Like that's what
She's
you
polished.
see with her.
Polished.
She is like she doesn't do anything wrong. She is a like literally as they say, she is a woman. Like she is a professional. Crystal Method should have won that by far. By far.
Robbed.
So that was really surprising. She was robbed. She was robbed.
See, when I seen them do that yellow makeup, I was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" And everybody else is giving the shade eye looks like, "What the fuck are they doing?" But when those two walked out, I was like, "Nailed it, nailed it." And somebody else said it was very fashionable, and I looked at it and I thought that looks so good.
It was fashionable. It was. It wasn't a mess. It still looked fashion.
It was on it.
Yeah, but she was robbed.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should wrap up, Matt. Unless you had something else you want to talk about.
No, I was hoping we would have wrapped up about 15 minutes ago.
Well, I had to talk about my week.
You just had to, didn't you? But the X-Files are
I had
great.
to get them. The X-Files are good. It is good, and I remember so many episodes from a kid. I also remember as a kid watching it with my mum. So it's sort of weird that here we are, like 20 odd years later, rewatching it together. Because my sister was always too scared, so she'd never watch it. So always just me and my mum. And I used to piss myself like out of fear, but I used to always watch it because I'm easily scared as a human being, like regardless to jumps or anything. I am easily scared. I had to get up and pee in the middle of the night one night this week, and I was so scared to go to the toilet. And
I'll stop it.
because I know because like, for example, what happened. I remember not that many years ago, like when I first moved back to Ireland from being in London. I remember I'd walk to the bathroom, and whatever way the blinds in the hall sit, it used to look like there was a figure in our front garden, and it was just whatever way the shadow cast across the wall. And I remember, because I didn't have my glasses on, I couldn't see. I just seen this, what looked like a head and two shoulders outside the window, and it freaked me out. You know, bitches behind, killers everywhere. The killer is everywhere. There could be a killer anywhere, and it could be in my front garden. It could be in your back garden.
Yeah. All right. You have a lovely week, Ashley.
Yeah, you too.
I will. I have no plans.
And thanks everyone for listening. And like Matt said, it'd be good to hear your thoughts on anything that we've talked about today. Yeah, be good.
Excellent.
Right.
Enjoy the rest of your exercise, Ashley.
Oh, my legs need a rest now for a couple of weeks, I think.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.